These meetings are meant to be, the reason why we have a venue like this, you know that normally we go to Orlando Stadium, ne? But these meetings are deliberately meant to be engagement meetings. They're not meant to be mass meetings. They are designed for maximum interaction, and if need be, we will repeat them. Between now and within the next 6 months, we're going to be doing these meetings. But right now, the purpose of the meetings is simply to ask you, as citizens of South Africa, to engage with us, to tell us what are the burning issues in your sector, what issues you would like to be addressed in the EFF manifesto, and what issues you'd really like, even whatever happens in the elections, you'd like us to address. I think we can safely say now that we have proven, particularly with the events that happened yesterday in Parliament, we have proven that for the EFF to make things happen, we do not necessarily have to be in power. But it would be better if we are in power. So it would be better if you do vote for us. So let's get that out of the way. Yeah. But on a serious note, the purpose of this meeting is not electioneering as such. It is to get people, for you to really help us by highlighting those issues that affect you as part of our constituency. And those issues that you would like us to address, as I say, whether we're in power, whether we have power directly or indirectly, as happens in various parts of the country right now. And we really would sincerely like a frank discussion. Don't hold back. Don't make us, our egos are fine. Don't worry about them. Yeah. So don't praise us. Yeah, you can praise us in private. Here, we want robust engagement. We want criticism. We want suggestions, concrete suggestions. We want, as I say, very intense discussions so that we understand. Even if you attack us and we become defensive, don't worry. You must know that we have listened, we have heard you. When we are alone, we are going to say, hey, those people were telling the truth, you know. So please, no holds barred. Go for it. Make concrete proposals. There are many issues in your sector that we are aware of because we have been interacting with some of you at an informal level. I can tell you now, one of the issues I was talking about with somebody is the issue of black tax, for example. And we want your advice. What is this thing? All of us are affected by it. We don't know how to, even to define it. Should it be made tax deductible? I think it is for my personal reasons, yeah. You know what I mean? So think out of the box. Don't think like, within the mode of the current regime and the current system. Think out of the box. What innovative ways? Someone said to me the other day, why don't we have mortgage bonds that are designed for the black person? And, for an up-and-coming, someone graduate, those kinds of things. That's what we want to hear from you. We can talk about them, but we don't know the technicalities of the sector. So you might want to advise us of what to look out for. You know where we come from. We come from the place that says, for there to be real change in this country, for there to be genuine change, for there to be real freedom, we need to go and ensure that the downtrodden are the ones that we deliver to. So that's the only basis for us. We don't want to be popular with the media. We don't want to be popular with anybody. All we want is to make sure that we find solutions, difficult as they might be, controversial, quote unquote, as they might be in the face of the current system. But those solutions must address the economic plight of our people. Because we believe that if we don't address the economic plight of our people, there's going to be chaos in this country, which will engulf all of us, which will, know the short-termism of some of the people who run our economy is the problem, because they think no longer than the next quarter results and so on. We think 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. And so please give us solutions that speak to that kind of approach, and why it is that the economy must be looked at in that kind of horizon. So that's really what the kind of interaction that we want to engage in. There are no speeches today from us, not even from our president. Our president is here to listen to you, and he will react and only speak to you apropos what you want to speak. In other words, you set the agenda and not us, and you will say what are the burning issues. The chairperson of the province is here, Mandisa Mashego. Let's give a round of applause. We have one of our fiery commissars from the War Council, and our war is against poverty, so don't worry. Commissar Tebogo Mokwile. And of course, we have our Commissar for Communications, otherwise known as the People's Bay, yes. Okay. Who's here? Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. And of course, we have our one and only president in waiting, Julius Silo Malema. Thank you very much. So what I will do very quickly so that we get to the gist of the issue, which is you addressing us really rather than us addressing you. I will call on our provincial chair to welcome you here, because she's really hosting us. This is her province. We also have the provincial secretary here to come and get a mic so that I can introduce him. So we will get to that. The provincial chair will welcome you. Commissar Mbuyiseni will then take over, and using the roving mic, will do the main item, which is listening to you. Then we'll have that kind of interaction. You'll ask questions, make comments, suggestions, whatever, as I said, criticisms and what have you. And then after that, the president will really respond, more than making a speech, respond to the issues that you will have raised. Thank you very much. That's my role. I thought I was just passing through here, but you know what happens in politics. When you accept the position of national chairperson, they say, you get told as you're working, this is a national meeting. Who else do you think is going to chair it? So that's my role, and it basically ends here. Thank you very much. Provincial Chair.
Thank you, National Chairperson. I suppose I should also introduce the National Chairperson, otherwise known as the Advocate of the People. Thank you. It's a simple one. You're all welcome. We spoke earlier when I had to ask you to give us a few more minutes before commencement, but you're all welcome, and thank you very much for coming at such late notice, as you all know, and thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. Enjoy the session and engage as robustly as possible. Thank you.
I have this need to wear a red beret. So that you don't get confused, you see where you are. You think we've become the Black Panther. Thank you, Mr. President and the National Chairperson and the Provincial Chairperson. Without any further ado, I'm really just going to facilitate. I hope you are relaxed, and I hope that you will speak as freely as the Chairperson indicated, Advocate Dalimbofu. So there is a roving mic. Let us attempt the first round of hands. how would you envision the financial sector changing, or any other thing that you would like to see happening in the financial sector on the part of those that have influence in government, in policy making, like the EFF, so we can put it in our manifesto. So I'll have sister number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. Let's start with a round of 6 first, and then we'll take the second one after.
Madekwana.
Abud.
My name is Ndibuo Makuba. I'm they call me the Divisional Director of Enterprise Risk Management at Liberty Life. But more importantly, I'm a brilliant mathematician and also statistician.
Great.
So I'm in the actuarial profession. So what I wanted to encourage the EFF to get the shortest route to solution. We have representative bodies in the financial sector. In the actuarial profession, we've got ASABA, where we've got an executive who know all the issues in our sector. In CA, they've got ABASA. In investment, we've got ABSIP. All those excos know deeply the issues in our profession,
Sure.
which currently, as they stand, and then I'll talk about the future. Our boards are white male, old white male. Our board subcommittees are the same. Our group executive are the same. Our CEOs are the same, white male. This thing is not organic. You're not going to get bottom-up push. It's actually, it works from the top. Once the top is changed, the bottom moves. I'm a manager, I'm a director. I hire black people. And somehow in the value chain of HR, which is recruitment, development, promotion, performance reward, I just have to smile in an interview and a black person blossoms. And I nod. And I just have to be present in a performance moderation, and the curve shows black people rising to the top. So it's this thing that's at the top. So that's the first thing. And this thing that these employment equity plans, people budget for fines, has to stop, because we are really suffering on a daily basis. Okay, that's the current situation. The future. In my profession, even if you talk to them about changing, they'll tell you that it takes maths to get into my degree. Mathematics is about education. This is about every child not having to imagine what a litmus test looks like. They must see that litmus test happening. So the brilliant children are there. We're going to the schools in Asaba. The children are brilliant. The children are working hard. But you find that there's a lone principal who's brilliant. Teachers on payday go shopping, paying Edgar's accounts. And a lone brilliant principal against this whole suite. So we're saying that as EFF, please, there are some things that political slogans will sort out for us, but mathematicians' slogans won't sort out. Mathematicians is going to have to be teachers in the classroom teaching every single day. It's going to have to be the children with the facilities they need, access to textbooks, children with access to electrified classrooms, children with labs. There's just not going to be, whether we're in 20 years, we're still sloganeering, asijiki, ingi, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Mathematicians will not happen without fixing education.
Thank you. Number 2. Just make sure you remember your number.
My name is Kopano. I'm a senior insights manager at Nedbank. I think the previous speaker spoke for the executive or the directors. Speak for more the younger people.
Yeah.
What I just want to say is that there's a whole lot of young black people within the financial sector that are really frustrated. And they are willing, with their expertise, to help the EFF to be able to resolve these things with their skills. But right now, there's no access. What we need is a way, even if a platform through which you can continuously be able to contribute towards your policies with our own expertise in the area. I mean, coming from a market research and an inside profession, one thing that, for instance, personally I'm willing to do is we could be to ensure that EFF has got their fingers on the pulse on whatever it's doing. We could be able to conduct this market research and have professionals being able to contribute these things. Young people are willing to assist. All that we need is so that there's that platform. We don't have any home. That's why people end up being lost and going to the Democratic Alliance, which People are getting lost. But EFF is, all young people right now in the corporate sector resonate with the EFF. We hear the message. All that we need to do is how can we be able to help? How open those platforms for us to come through. In terms of the issues, unfortunately, we are experiencing systematic issues in the financial sector. And for you to resolve the complex systematic issues, you need a systematic approach. And that actually requires you to understand the system, the way it was created, so that you are able to think above the system that created that, because you cannot solve the system with the same mentality or a mentality that is below what was used to solve it. So I'm just saying, please open it up for us. The issues are a lot. We want to contribute towards those. I don't even know which one to start with, because there's a ceiling for black professionals. You cannot go beyond this thing. And it's really frustrating. I'm just appealing to say, please open those platforms so that we can be able to tell you what is happening.
Thank you. Number 3. Number 3, here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Muzifa Gote. I'm going to touch base on 2 things. The firstly, it's the challenges of fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, or the artificial intelligence. What we see, it's something that we cannot avoid, because on other hand, it's going to develop our economy. But on other hand, it's chowing our jobs, because these machines and the robots, they are taking away the jobs of the people. Like, if we can check the announcement that the Standard Bank made, it's that 500 people are going to lose job in IT department because of the artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And then if we can go to McDonald's, for instance, everything is now digital. You order there, digital. What will happen to our people? Because people, they're going to lose job. So I would like to find out, as fighters, how are we going to resolve this issue? I know that is something that we cannot really avoid, since we are competing globally with this artificial intelligence. But it's something that we need to come with a solution, so that our people, especially those semi-skilled people, won't able to lose jobs. Another point that I want to touch base is that we need to become entrepreneurial activists. We need to promote entrepreneurship anywhere, anyhow, from high school to university, so that everyone can have entrepreneurial spirit in them, so that we weren't able to rely to be employed. We can also create jobs as fighters, as anyone as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4. Number 4, here.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Firstly, I want to thank President. I think I'm the only Indian person here, so and I'm not a Gupta. But no, look, on a serious note, my name is Tahir Abdul. I'm 31 years old. I represent my family business. I'm taking over. My brother and I, my dad wants to retire. The reason, of course, why I'm here, there's, of course, 2 parts. The first part, and I think to answer that gentleman's question and the other gentleman's question, is unemployment is a massive issue. And it's just getting worse and worse. You know, there's a number of factors, and of course, unemployment then breeds every other problem, drugs and crime and everything else. My story is simple. I mean, I've proven a model. Don't employ people. Give them the tools, let them be their own bosses. In summary, I'm here to ask the EFF, open your platform. The gentleman is saying there's a lot of people that are qualified and looking for ways to contribute. I'm saying we have a simple model. We were taking street people that had drug issues. You know, I personally interviewed them, took them on and said, look, let me use you as a case study. We sell pies and samosas. The business name is called Delhi Delicious, sorry. We've been now around for 20 years. Yeah. This is our 20th year anniversary. It's simple products. We target a consumer that has $20 or less to spend on something to chow. That's it. The model works simple. You sell 30 combos a day, work for 25 days, you're making yourself close to 5.5, 6 grand net profit. I have a youngster, massive drug problem, 3 kids, and you know, the story gets worse. He earns himself 28,000 rand a month now. He's with me for a year. And I'm saying, I'm here for real results. The story of, look, again, education, I love education. Math, study, everything. I'm a qualified engineer by profession, but it means fuck all. The difference with studying it allows you the ability to think differently, think better, you know.
You are swearing and your father is here, am I right?
He has a big beard, so.
Okay.
We never wanted to do. But, you know, the thing is that when I employ people, the ones with fancy degrees, I get worried. You know, not to run anyone else down, but I'm saying create real jobs that's going to really help people. Because we employ 680 staff at the moment. The business is run by myself and my younger brother. Any one of you, let us join me, join whoever, let's create the jobs and move forward. In summary, that's what I have to say. The second part, and of course that's a personal part, and I speak, again, being an Indian young person. And I'll be honest, I voted for the ANC all the time. And I'm here just to hear from you guys. And with all due respect, I talked to the president and spokesman, is that the perception in Indian community, specifically the youth, is that the EFF is here to run us down, take our businesses, and they're only there for the black person. And I'm like, no man, that surely cannot be the case. You know, stereotypes need to stop, man. It's a whole lot of bullshit. Go and listen. If it is the case, ask them. If you say it is the case, then we know. Then I can start packing my money in my bag and then I can shop. But up until that time, it's nonsense. We have a great country. There's a lot of, and again, we employ or we give preference to single black mothers. 98% of the people that we employ are single black mothers. And that's why I understand the culture and I understand black community, and that's why I'm saying it's nonsense. So if people just made more of an effort, they're supposed to listen to each other. And then, like I said, I have a real opportunity to make real jobs now. All the other fancy stuff and that can come, but we need to sort out employment immediately. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Number 5. Number 5? Okay, number 6 then. Oh, is at least what we can expect financial people to remember is a number.
No,
Don't be like that guy we had to remove in Parliament who had problems with numbers.
No, I've just added VAT with 5 and that went to 6. Evening, everyone. My name is Ken Mukoteri, and I'm from the company called Meros Equity Investments. Ours is about ownership. First of all, I would like to say something about capitalism and socialism. I'm a capitalist who believes in socialism because I believe that capitalism has got its own shortcomings.
Like a sinner who believes in God.
Yeah.
Yes.
So capitalism has got its own shortcomings. Once you have you accumulate some wealth, chances are you will have that advantage to accumulate more as you go. So that's when we need socialism to fix those shortcomings. So that's why, as a capitalist, I believe once in a while we need to invoke socialism to ensure that those who have some breaks are put so that we share the cake. So I just wanted to put that out of the way. So about ownership, there is this challenge that black people don't own the economy. JSE listed equities, direct ownership standing less than 5%. For people who are more than 80%, it's really a worrying situation. And there is thinking in this country, there are certain people who are pushing this thing that if a black man owns, this country is going to go down, whether it's land, whether it's companies, whether it's whatever. And we have seen over the past few months some organization coming up really criticizing these programs that are supposed to assist black people to own. We have seen a march by social white employees. We are seeing, I think it's today or 2 days back, some organization complaining about Discovery giving 10% to black people. Yeah, so there is that a direction where people criticize efforts to get black people being part of the mainstream of the economy. And one thing that I would want to hear often is, because myself as Ken, if I complain about this, so if I say something against this, it's like me talking and then that's it. But if it's said by leadership, for people to understand that, for people to stand up against black people being given a chance to own, it's an insult to black people. And it's really, because if you think about the past, that's how you understand how is this thing insulting black people. So if these things are not said, then the thinking in our communities or the thinking in the country would be like, no, ownership by black people is actually a bad thing. Because if other groups are saying, no, this thing should stop, or they are fighting and no one is saying anything about that, then the pressure would come from the other group, and Cooperative would always try to stand the pressure, yeah. So I was just asking that please keep track of what people are saying about, especially ownership, because we are passionate about ownership. So keep track of what people are saying, and please try to counter whatever things that are said to stop people from owning. Yeah, so that's it. The other thing, the last thing, it's still about ownership, but in 2002, there was an agreement between government, corporate, and JSE to raise direct ownership of black people to 25%.
Yeah.
From 2002, it was supposed to start in 2002 and end in 2017. So from 2002, there were strange things that were happening. All of a sudden, JSC did not know the ownership of black people. There were new people who were appointed to do the research, coming up with new numbers. So there's been confusion over the years about actually the ownership of black people on the JSC. So it happened like that until around 2015, when JSC finally agreed that no, direct ownership is around 3%. So, but by then it was already late to reach the 2017 target. So that program just collapsed. No one is saying anything about it. No one is asking what happened to this. No one is held accountable. There is no monitoring. There is absolutely nothing. And that's the reason why we are doing what we are doing, to put back that program so that we see black people owning. So from our side, our appeal is that we would like to see that project back, being on board again, and we would like to have new targets. Because as a country, we don't even have targets. We don't know this year what targets are we supposed to reach in terms of black ownership. We don't know in the next 3 years what targets are we supposed to reach. So we're leaving ownership to chance. It's like it will happen when it happens. And ownership is a critical thing. Owning the land, owning the economy, owning factories. So ownership is a critical thing. Actually, the struggle was about ownership. If you really think about it, the struggle was about ownership. And whether you look at apartheid, colonialism, or slavery, whether you look at it from whatever angle, all those things were about economic benefit by other people. They were about disenfranchising other groups so that they can benefit. So the center of the struggle is ownership. If we don't push ownership, we'll keep on talking about a lot of things until, I don't know when, until our black people are just tired and not participating in any program. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes.
And good evening to everyone. My name is Nomathemba Mayekiso. I am representing female entrepreneurs in this country. I am in a very white-dominated space, which is franchising. I'm a franchisee for Mike's Kitchen in Eastgate Mall. And starting this business has been a great challenge. I actually saw a video a couple of weeks ago that was trending, where the president was saying, we will not give the farms to the DJs. And we'll give the farms to the people who will go and fail and do it again and again. I was like, oh my God, he's talking about me. This is my situation. Here I am in this franchising world, trying to find my place, trying to make my business work, and white people fighting me every day because the other restaurants in the mall, they want me out of there. She's taking our customers. We're waiting for her to close down. The landlord on my case. And unfortunately, my rental from the day I started, it was never negotiated properly for me, and I didn't know this. My rental is 250,000. Yes, and my rental is 250,000 rents in that mall, and I wrote proposals a couple of months ago. I said, Eastgate, do not let me close my doors because of rental. Help me, you know? And they turned down my proposal. They say, no, we can't bring down your rent. And it's been a challenge because, as you know, malls, we trade very high in the weekend and very low during the week, seasons, if it's raining, if it's cold, whatever the situation. But obviously, the plan is to grow your business, to make a turnover of about 1 million to be able to survive as a franchisee. So at this stage, we're still running between 6 and 700 as a struggling business, and there's no cash flow, there's no capital. The same money that we're making, we still need to put it back in stock, and it's just been a challenge. So last week I got a call from the lawyer of the mall saying, Tembi, you need to give us the keys. You need to give us the keys, and we need to do it now, and just give us the keys and just let this thing slide. Just go away now before you are in more debt. And I said to him, but I employ about 35 people. You are saying I must close at this is the busiest season that I'm going to. I'm looking forward to making money and settling my bills and growing my business. Say, no. We have to stop you from trading. We have to stop you from trading. Your arrears are too much. I said, but I came to you. I told you, I can't afford to pay this money. It's too much. Give me a flat rate. Let me learn the business. Everybody who's in Eastgate, who's owning a restaurant, has been there. Piato has been there for 10 years. Montevani has been there for 15 years. I'm here for less than a year. I'm saying give me a flat rate as a black person so I can learn and succeed. I represent way more than 80% of your shoppers. How dare you close me down, you know? And black people are coming into this mall to shop. So, yeah, so he's been phoning me every day. Tembi, what's the decision? Are you giving us back the key? And I'm like, yeah, well, and then I phoned the Franchise Association, and the lady there, she's the head of the association. She says, okay, give me this money for a consulting fee. No, they cannot do that to you. They cannot do that to you. Believe me, when she called me back, she had turned against me. You know what? It's for your best interest. Just go now before you are in more debt. It's like, oh my goodness. And that's when we're going around trying to find a solution. We ended up 2 days ago speaking to your PA, who was absolutely amazing, telling me how to get hold of you guys, because I've seen EFF on 2 occasions in the mall helping the security guards or whatever, you know, because it was at that point like, I need someone to represent me in this thing. I've tried, and it's just me with all these white people, you know? And like I say, I don't want to close my business. I want an opportunity to succeed. Like he said in the video, we will do this. It's our first time, but we're going to do this, and we are hungry to succeed. We want to do it. Doesn't matter the challenge now. How do you not give me an opportunity and say, you know what, we've given you a year and a half. We've given you 2 years. You are totally not winning at this. How do you just say, give me back the keys? Because he's saying I must give him back the keys because he doesn't want to pay for the legal cost. He wants to save himself the money of going to court. He just wants me to hand over and just walk away with all the debt on top of me. I'm a single mother of 2 girls. And then I must walk away with I don't know how much debt, and they must just take my shop and give it to the next white person. Yes. So I need help. I need someone to go and defend me. Not for me, but for the people that I employ, because if that business can close down, 30 people will not have jobs. So, and obviously after speaking to Dali's PA, then someone phoned me, like, Tembi, won't tweet and you need to go to that meeting. And I just, it looked like it was so perfect for me, and I was like, I'll be there. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's attempt the second round. I see y'all getting hot down in here, getting warmed up. Okay. Yeah. There isn't a lot of women in the crowd, so I was trying to start with the ladies first. Okay, there, Sissy. Yeah, next to you, her. One. She seems to be the only one. Oh, and two. Number two. Are there no more ladies? All right. That big number two, you'll be number three. You'll be number 4, you'll be number 5, you'll be number 6. Yeah. You're not members of the media. Both of you, fine. Okay. Excellent. Let's start with number 1. There, yes. So we have scribes as well that are taking each and every little detail of everything that you're telling us, just to give you a heads up.
Thanks, leadership.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Homozo Ramutibe, a banker through and through. I work for previously known as Barclays, part of their Rest of Africa division, doing something called product management.
Yes.
There's a couple of issues that I've actually jotted down that I'd like to raise, but I'll try and be brief. On the issue of unemployment, I'm of the view that we do not have an unemployment problem in South Africa. Where I am, we've got an issue of an influx of expats in our business. And we have tried raising this with executive leadership, and we're told about rare skills. And the question that we posed was to say, skills like project administration, it's something that can be sourced from South Africa. You don't have to go to India to get a resource for such a skill. And to date, we haven't had the answers. From there, a transformation committee was born. I volunteered to be on that committee, but it ended up becoming a social committee. So in terms of trying to actually facilitate transformation from within, without executive sponsorship from senior leaders, our boss is Peter Matlari, it's pointless. So this is where we're looking to you guys to say, how do you make transformation a reality, and how do you hold the executives accountable to ensure that somebody talked about targets, they reach those targets. That's the one thing. The second thing is around HR, right? My observation, and I think speaking to a couple of people as well, HR has just become more like a tick box exercise. They're just there for the sake of being there. So they're not creating a platform to, raise pertinent conversations around HR matters. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about they are suffocating in the financial sector as employees. They feel unwanted in that space. That space is not ready to have black people. All odds are against you. And unfortunately, for some of us that are vocal, once you start raising the issues, you get victimized. It's either they'll actually work you out of the system completely, and you don't have support from anyone when you face those challenges. That's another issue, or where we need support from a policy point of view. So in terms of BEE, I've also sat on an employment equity forum in my past life. So what you find is that from a government point of view, they just get given stats, which they don't even understand what they mean, right? And then to you guys, it looks like corporate South Africa is reaching their targets. But when you sit and understand the issues and scratch beneath the surface, what you realize is that the numbers are cooked, they are doctored. They would call somebody who's actually junior, but when they report, they call them senior managers. But for us that are in the organization and you look at what the role of the person and what the scale entail, you realize that the numbers are being distorted, but nobody's holding them accountable. So that's another tick box. And I think when you talk about transformation, when you talk about employment equity, we need government to be active. We need government to literally ask questions and hold these companies accountable. So this is where we need your support. In terms of, somebody talked about artificial intelligence. I think it's a very valid point. The issue of artificial intelligence is a reality. It's upon us. But I think as a nation, we really need to say, how are we going to solve for artificial intelligence? The reality is that the world is moving at a very fast pace, and technology, unfortunately, is here and is here to stay. But then through education, how do you literally empower your people so that they can actually have the skills of the future, so that they can, be able to partake in the economy when those changes happen? Why people are scared is because they know for a fact that they do not have the necessary skills that are required that will make sure that they actually become relevant within that environment. I mean, things like financial, you are in the data environment, things like financial modeling, that should be a course that's given, before a person even gets to university. You shouldn't see Excel when you get to university. Things like Excel, it's something that should be part of your curriculum at high school. Financial modeling should be part of our curriculum. So from an education point of view, in terms of the content, I think we really need to organize ourselves in a better way so that we can equip our learners with the relevant knowledge so that they can be ready for what's coming ahead. I I have so many things. Sorry, guys, but I'll try and be brief. So I think also on the piece of entrepreneurship, I think it needs to be part of the curriculum. So kids need to know about entrepreneurship earlier on in life as opposed to learning about it at a later stage. So that talks to our curriculum. And I think our curriculum requires overall an overhaul to say, is it valid? I once read an article that talks to some of the qualifications that we're doing to say before you even get to fourth year, half of the stuff that you've learned has actually become irrelevant. But that just talks to the knowledge era and how pervasive it's become to say we need to keep up with the trends. In terms of innovation, in terms of how do we then give our people access to land and property, a lot of people cannot afford bonds, obviously because of HDIs and all of that. You are required to raise at least 10% of a deposit if you want to buy a property, but that is quite steep for a lot of people, so they can't afford that. So where the government can actually come in is probably maybe come up with something for first-time buyers where you literally give them like an aid or financial aid of sorts that will help in terms of dealing with the transfer costs, which are actually going up. They are ridiculous. I mean, I work for a financial institution, but I also actually pay a lot of charges when you buy a property. So if you give them a subsidy of sorts in terms of taking care of your transfer costs, I think you will allow a lot of people access and maybe give them a grant of sorts, because people will just dream about having property in South Africa, but they're not going to realize it with the current status quo. I think I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, number 2 is in front here. Number 2. Oh yeah, that's true. There you go, sister.
Good evening.
Yes.
So I want to talk about unemployment that we're having. As the government in waiting, Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Tabiseng Milwa. I work for NEPAD, which is an organ of African Union. Now, there are jobs within the organization that have diplomatic status in South Africa for South Africans. But our government is not using them, or it's not even implementing the host agreements that they have with these organizations. I'll make an example with the organization that I work for. You know, according to the host country agreement, all the support staff should be South Africans. And that is the case even with the United Nations. But if you come to organizations that are, let's say, organs that are from the African Union, you've got Pan-African Parliament, you have NEPAD and APRM. Support staff, you find that for small jobs such as a driver, they recruit internationally. And you wonder why, because you don't need specialized skill for that. But our government is so afraid to challenge these organizations because they don't want to be viewed in a bad light. But in all honesty, South Africa is spending a lot of money in hosting these organizations. You pay for for them to be housed, meaning you pay for rental of the building itself. You pay for all the infrastructure that these organizations are using. But what is South Africa benefiting from it? This is something that, as the government in waiting, I expect EFF to really challenge, because the jobs are there, but we are not taking them. So please put more emphasis, more focus into the diplomatic sector, because you know, there are so many challenges. I remember when Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma became the chairperson of African Union, we were very excited, thinking that, oh, here's a South African. We highlighted all these challenges and nothing was done until she left. The next time we saw it was on a farewell party. And we wonder, really, is that?
She left, and then you saw her at the farewell party.
Yes. That was the second time we saw her. And nothing was done. So I expect a very responsive government that will challenge the status quo. It can be done. It's legally documented. So it's not like you will struggle very much. You just have to enforce what is there.
Thank you. Okay, number 3 here.
Greeting everyone. My name is Pudi. I'm representing my own company, Electrical and Project. I work to a company which is a white monopoly capital. I can't mention the name because I see the ENCA is here. Yeah. Leadership, Vita Pelwak, regular dumedition once again. Says the chairman, advocate, my chair lady, leadership, People's Bay. We, the youngsters, that we managed to open the companies, small companies, we are still having a problem whereby we can get funding from the government, which is the ANC. We cannot get the funding from them because we don't support them, we don't vote for them. So that is a problem. So that's one. Secondly, is hence I'm working in the company in the engineering department as a qualified young black man. I acquired the skill that I can service the machines there, but I cannot get subcontractor because I'm a black and my brothers are not qualified. I don't have a white friend, which is a manager. So the skill that I have, I must just work for them. That's the problem. So we black people, the EFF leadership, we are still facing a big problem whereby when you are a qualified somebody working in an engineering department and you are more qualified than a white person that is a newly qualified, you teach him the job, but in terms of the pay, you find out is way far from him. Comrade and the business leadership, I'm talking with the experience here. I even open a grievance against the company, and the issue now is we sent to the CCMA. The CCMA say no, this one is discrimination. We involve the lawyers, we appeal it, we take it to the labor court. We are still waiting for the date, although it will take time because we don't have money, we're poor. So how are we going to deal with this thing? How are we going to challenge this thing? Because now at the private sectors, the union there is captured from the ANC. So they are working with the business. They are working with the business. You find out the leadership of the union is going to team building with the managers. How can you go to team building with the managers where else you are represent the poor of the poorest? Comrade, is serious. You might laugh. Out there, people are suffering, and some they don't talk. Yeah? So the issue now, when you raise the issue, you become the threat to the company, becoming the enemy of the employer. So when you become the enemy of the employer, they're checking you, even when you go to the loo, they're checking you. It's a problem. So we must not talk. Now, I don't know if this thing is also happening in the government or what, but in a private sector, a black guy cannot earn more than a white guy. And in terms of the positions, I can see that there is a black BEE and what, and that one, it does not happen. It's not even happening, comrade. When you see somebody that occupy a position in the private sector, is the HR coordinator, HR and those kind of positions. Why not obtaining the strategic position? We are talking about the directors here. We are talking about the engineering department. We are talking about someone that is that particular black, talented African child knows the turnover of the business. Now, when we go to negotiation, comrade, we are saying we want this. I'll just mention this one before. When we, because the company is an international company, you find out that out there, the medical aid is 100%, and here in South Africa is 50%. When we starting doing our own research, we talk to an African guys, we talking to other guys, they say, no, our medical aid is 80%, the company is paying 80%, we pay 20%. When you come to South Africa, you find out you are paying 50%, the company is paying 50%. When you go to negotiation, we are telling them that we want this. We want 80%, they say, no, you can't get it. When you're supposed to get it, they say, no, the company is not doing well, and what. When we want a financial year statement, give us, they don't want to give us. Then the people that they're taking them to the team building, that they're eating muffins there, they're eating smart. When we ask them that, let's shut this plant, because this plant cannot operate, they cannot allow to shut it for the next 8 hours because of the demand of the production. Let's show them that we mean business here in terms of a salary increment. Then they will tell you, no, they call people with the other side, they're giving them some, you find out they're resigning from the union, and then we don't have a direction. So now, I'm appealing that I can see that the EFF is doing very well in terms of that company that was insulting and racist company that you did, HEM. Now I saw them that side of an African, Mall of Africa, which is they're demonstrating that what they want. So in a private sector, how are you going to assist us, Comrade Dali? How are you going to do that? because I see that you are not even beaten in the parliament. I know. I know people have been beating them, and I was so angry. I see. Look at these people that are representing us, but they're beating them. But it's fine. So now, what I'm saying is, I mentioned this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay, just conclude, my brother, from the engineering sector.
Yes. Yeah, you know, when you coughing things out, and
That's
you get
fine.
a platform like this, then you just cough it out. Thank you, leadership. You'll get a platform also, and you'll cough it out. It's fine. What I just wanna raise here, Comrade Mbuiseni, that I saw that they passed the Section 25 of the land. And my brothers here, they've been talking that is a campaigning issue, that the ANC won't implement that one because they're pushing by the EFF. So what I'm saying is, why not we come up with a mechanism whereby if we can just, because I'm eager to get a land, a workshop, Comrade Dali. I will open, where I'm staying, there's an open space. I'll take that open space, I open my nice workshop that I'll work, engineering workshop. So what I'm saying is...
Let us do this. We do have a forum on land.
Okay.
We have a forum on engineering, on agriculture. How about we prioritize these good souls that have come here for finance?
All right.
Finance, my man. Thank you.
Okay. No, I just, before I hang up.
Okay.
Oh.
Shh. Are you?
I understand.
Yeah, talk through me.
Yes, I'm okay. Leadership. I'm wrapping up now.
Finance.
Finance. Yes. I'm crying about the paying scale in the private sector. The paying scale. There is a qualified somebody, Mbuiseni, you are a doctor. When you come to my company, you'll earn more or less.
You've already made that point.
Thank you very much.
I think you started with it, yes. Let's take number 3. That was number 3, number 4. Yeah. And just another disclaimer. Can we talk about the finance sector? So ordinarily the finance sector is insurance, is the banks, you know. So let's stick to that. And we are now going to be strict about listening to finance, and you all have 2 minutes at most.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, sir.
My name is Kojo Begmanu. I'm the managing partner for Quartile Capital Finance. Mine is simple. I think to start off with, I think I would support the call from my fellow mathematician up about speaking to the organized organizations such as APSIP and. Mine, in response to what this meeting is about, is some things that we would like policy or support in, would be inclusion in the high-end transactions. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So Quartile Capital, we deal with corporate finance, treasury, and consulting. And we do high-end transactions such as we raise money for National Treasury. Recently, in August, we raised $1.5 billion for ESCOM via bonds. So that's what we do. But the truth be told is that we would not have participated in those transactions had it not been insistence from the government at that time that you shall partner with such and such a bank. What I'm raising here is that the private sector is getting away with murder. There are a lot of high-end transactions that happen without capable firms in the sector. even though the current government has some sort of insistence towards that, it's not fully there. And I'll make some examples. ESCOM is doing this restructuring, which we all know are waiting from this report from Lazard or whatever the company is. We went in as a group of capable firms and we partnered together, fully aware that the scale of the transaction is above us. But went in together with the hope that whoever they appoint, they will also, with that insistence, say, work with these people. SAA is going through a restructuring. To my understanding, Deutsche Bank is doing that. There's no other black firm, for lack of a better term, doing that. So I'm speaking about insistence. Now, in the private sector, we have been able to make some headway. But truth be told, we've only made headway because of certain executives that insisted that whichever bank or firm comes in must come in with a black firm. I'll use PPC as an example. Ms. Trifosa Ramano insisted, when PPC wanted to do its bond program, that there should be a black firm, part of the firms that are doing that. We were fortunate to have participated in that. Another case, Sasol has gone on an insistence that the scope of the transactions that they do, the high-end transactions, they insist that, and they've started with lawyers. I know Poso and Cooperative got involved with this Kanyisa transaction that they did, but it was through insistence. However, those black executives don't exist in the masses of private sector. And so my call to a policy institution such as EFF would be to say, well, look, if it won't be for executives, then let's make it policy, that you shall do this. It's interesting to note that there's a mine shaft right in the middle of your logo. The mining sector, as you know, controls a lot of capital coming in and out of the country. And there are a lot of M&A, corporate finance transactions that happen that we don't see, yet we're capable of doing. So mine, in my 2 minutes, is to just request to say if there's anything that we'd like to add going into the manifesto, is insistence on if it's a transaction, you shall partner with black firms. Thank you.
Excellent. Number 5.
Tobela, leina la ka ke Nasello. I work in the public sector, specifically in one of the SETAs. There are about 21 SETAs, but 3 of them, they are focusing on finance and accounting, banking sector, as well as insurance. As a starting point, most of the SETAs, they do lots of research, specifically in this finance, accounting, and banking sector. And I think that will be a good starting point so that you can go and get this research that speaks about the profile of the sector trends. You know, they do these documents called sector skills plan that all these 21 SETAs do annually, which informs their strategic plans and annual plans, which they submit to the Department of Higher Education and Training. And obviously, this is, pertaining to skills development, which I believe is very, very crucial with regards to the transformation of the sector, because you cannot transform the sector if you don't have people that are educated. So I think it's a starting point if they can collect those researches so that you can be able to see who are you dealing with, the architect of all these sectors. I'll just give an example. In the finance and accounting sector, about 92% of the finance and accounting sector is made of small businesses, meaning that 92% of these companies employ less than 50 people in these companies. Now, one of the ways to actually transform this sector, firstly, is to ensure that the majority of black people study accounting and banking related studies. That is number 1. Number 2, majority of us black people, because the sector is made of the majority of small firms, they open their own accounting firms. But not only that, we also support them. But not only do we support them, we also criticize them, because there are some just want to be supported under the disguise that they're black people, despite the fact that they're doing mediocre type of work. But I think as a starting point, let's get scientific researchers. SETAs, despite their challenges, they work and interact with the big bosses. They submit reports every year as mandated by the skills development that will be able to give you an inside information of what is happening. And all this research that I'm talking about are accessible on all the SETAs, or for now you can limit it to the 3 SETAs: banking sector, insurance sector, and facet. Alternatively, through your MP who's sitting on the Higher Education Committee in Parliament, you can simply write to the minister and ask those reports so that you know the kind of a monster you're actually dealing with. And also encourage our people, especially in the rural areas, they don't know what to study for. For example, if you want to penetrate the finance and accounting sector, you need maths. You don't even need accounting. Then if your maths is good and you've got English, then you'll be fine. But if you're like somebody like myself who's from Bakersford in a rural area where the high school does not even have maths, we're school you're already at a disadvantage. So we need to start there, make sure the people at rural areas, they've got maths so that they can be spoiled for choice, so that when they go to university, they're not disadvantaged by the fact that they don't have the basics. And in that way, we can be able to penetrate, because the only way we can change the sector, it is inside out, through people who know the sector inside out. Thank you.
Number 6. Yeah.
Yeah, Tobet. I'm from Digni Administrators. We're trading as Digni Financial Services. I'm in the insurance space as a key individual and as a rep. We are responsible for assistance business, so funeral policies. I want to actually speak about the support in the industry. More especially on the regulation part, when it comes to black businesses. There are a lot of licenses that are being issued out to brokers, to administrators in the industry, but little support is being given to emerging entrepreneurs and a lot of black businesses in the industry. And I want to start it in this manner. You have your reassurers, you have your underwriters, and you have your underwriting managers, you have your administrators or brokers, and you have your agents on the ground. And I think there's been a lot of robbery by the white monopoly capital on the agents, or pure people on the ground. Firstly, they can't do financial planning on their own personal lives. And that is merely on the issues of the remuneration structure. They rely on commission. But I strongly believe that there's a lot that can be done in terms of influence of how these agents can be remunerated. My take is, I don't think that a once-off remuneration structure is enough for agents on the ground. I think we need to start forcing recurring commissions for agents, because in that we are increasing, employment. They are able to plan their lives. That's part of shareholding in the company. They're able to do a lot. They're able to franchise, like our lady now has a franchise within that very same company, because they are building capital, but later on they don't have a taste of it. I will leave it there. Then there's the issues of black brokers, right, that enter the industry. When you are given a license like ourselves as administrators or brokers, an impression has been given to you that you are able to create your own product, that you are able to sell or market your own product. But in actual fact, that is not the case, because the underwriter is the one that holds ownership of that product. Hence, you have to underwrite it elsewhere. And you can only operate under their terms. And I think those are the issues that needs to be addressed, that a scale needs to be expanded on actually the terms or the exclusions of the license that we are being given to operate, because we are the ones that are close to the market. If we are going to continue operating under the same underwriters, the same reassurers that are white-owned, and they don't understand the market that we're selling to, we will continue robbing our people. We say my uncle, my aunt is a dependent, not an extended. But how they force products on us is that I must classify my uncle or my aunt as an extended so that they can pay an additional premium. Yes. But our family structures, this black tax that Chair was talking about, when black brokers like ourselves, when we're operating in the space, it's some of the challenges that we want to address. But we cannot address them under the systems that have been set by the white monopoly capital. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to try another round. Yeah, I'm coming up there, so if you stand, I take it as intimidation. Number one, because you're sitting together, I'm sure the issues will be filtered. And then number two, yes. Number three, number four, number five, number six. Okay, number 7 and number 8. Huh? Yeah, what is the last round? Come, raise them. I'm not done taking. So I have number 8. Yes, sir. Number 9. Number 10. The lady is spoken already. So who is the CEO of IRBA? Okay, so you are in the line. Let's take those 10, huh? Yeah, 10 sounds like a decade, you know? Sounds substantial. Start with number 1.
Greetings.
Yes, sir.
My name is Archie Kwala, present in Ward 101, under the leadership of Mandisa, Commissar Mandisa. I come from the Imperial VBS Mutual Bank.
Okay.
So I'm mad. So I'm not this one. I think my question is directed to Fighter Dali, to some extent to CIC. Recently, as we all know what happened in VBS, there was the ill-treating of people. So in my case, for example, what happened was about 3 months, or on the 24th of, I think was of May or April, I got called by HR. HR then says to me, Baba, you are not going to get your salary tomorrow. Bearing in mind this is the 24th, I haven't made any arrangements.
Yeah.
Fine, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, you're not the only one. I said, no, sharp. Thinking I was not the only one. Then, 30 days later, my salary comes. Then that means the following month, so I'm working in areas. Then, all of a sudden, there was a case that was created that meant nothing. So then that means either from the beginning, they were trying to get me out of the system. Just like your sister was saying earlier. So fast forward, then there was a hearing, then I got chucked away. But where the problem that, when I started to have a problem, was when I started to approach the CCMA. That's when I realized that the Banking Act, the Banks Act, is actually not in favor of the employees. The Banks Act clearly stipulates that if the bank is under the curatorship, therefore all the legal matters must be stayed or provisionally must be stayed or not proceeded. So that means that my next step is to move into the labor court. When I started to engage my legal team, they started to say to me, listen, Baba, you are going to have a problem here. You need to start to go through, you have to start paying. And so there's no money for me to say I can just put and say, let's go to labor court. Because initially, so my question is, we need to make sure that the system, it's not about me. One thing that I've realized is no longer about me, but the system itself. It simply means the banking sector, it allows the bank to take favor to prefer to support the depositors' money, whereas the curators, in particular, VBS, they can abuse and unfairly dismiss people. And I think that there's about 10 people that have taken VBS to CCMA. But unfortunately, all of those cases, and I know all of them, if it's all of them, they were going to win their cases at CCMA because there were so many loopholes. Number one, the organization never had any policies. There were so many flaws. Let me just put it like that. There were so many flaws that would make, the question that that I'm asking is, are we able to, what I'm requesting the EFF to do is to look into the Banks Act, in particular when it comes to staff members, because in future we are going to have a lot of people that are going to be abused by the banks, whether it's VBS, because we don't know who's coming. I was saying to my friend, I'm looking at Time Digital now, 10, 15 years down the line, because of the things that I'm thinking that are happening there. They will be restructuring in the next 15 years. Then therefore, we'll be having people that will be losing their jobs on the basis that they are under curatorship, so therefore they are not protected. So that means any bank can dismiss someone.
Excellent.
Yeah, without protecting them.
Number 2.
Number 2.
That is number 2.
Was he number 2 or was I number 2?
Number 2, he's him.
Thank you very much. My name is...
Don't fight to number 2.
It's a special spot.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2.
Yes. My name is Kandana Msibi. I'm from Lumsa Investment Company. I thought we should give the EFF a few pointers so that Lumsa does not have an advantage, an unfair advantage next year. But we've already given them but we've already given to Mondays. So Mondays I used to be my employee at the Lumsa Investment Company. We own a company called the 360 Financial Services Group. And we think that it was very important for the EFF to start with the financial sector, because the financial sector is the most important sector in the economy. It accounts for 20% of the GDP. Mining is only 8%. But more importantly, the financial sector controls all other sectors. The mining industry gets money from the financial sector. The manufacturing, we're talking about ESCOM now with the comrade here speaking about raising bonds. It's a financial sector that is really running the economy. But what has happened is that with us as black people, we have not understood how this sector is actually structured and where we have power and where we don't have power. Right? Now the sector has a number of its, on its own, even though it controls the economy, the financial sector. At the top of the financial sector is a retirement fund. And we own a significant part of the retirement funds as black people. If you think about it, that the GPF has about 2 trillion rands, which is controlled by the state and the majority of black trustees, right? But that money is not used and leveraged in order to change the economy. Unfortunately, over the past 24 years, the GPF and the PIC have been used for personal gain by some of our politicians who have become billionaires. But all of that was driven by the retirement fund. And trade unions have not been that wise when it comes to retirement fund, because through the retirement funds, a lot of economic power is in black hands. But many of the retirement funds, even the black middle class who are sitting here, they don't know who's administering their retirement funds, where they work. They don't know who are the asset managers. They don't know who are the advisors. Right? So my view is that if we could understand the center of gravity of the economy is the financial sector, and the center of gravity of financial sector is the retirement funds. And black people have a lot of power within retirement funds that they are not using. In fact, that power is outsourced
Yeah.
to white monopoly capital. Right? So the struggle that we have for economic liberation, right, has to be on two fronts. Right? The first front is on what we already control, because when you control retirement funds and we become wiser, I mean, the trustees in a company like ArcelorMittal, black trustees, they control 3.5 billion rands, right, on behalf of those workers who are working for ArcelorMittal, right? But they don't behave and conduct themselves like people who control 3.5 billion rands, because that 3.5 billion rands has been outsourced to other people who are able to summon the bank CEO, right? From where we are now, if we could just study and understand retirement funds,
sure,
and understand what are the few things that we need to change on the retirement funds. I mean, simple things like, there's, in what we do, in our struggles, we always do a half job. Right? Consultative did a brilliant job in moving workers into provident funds, which workers control, right? But they didn't do enough work in terms of ensuring that that money is actually controlled. They control retirement funds as trustees, but they have no capacity, no skill in terms of leveraging that money. And my sister talks about the shopping mall that is giving her hassle, but I can tell you now, right, it's a retirement fund money that is invested in those shopping malls.
Yes, Eastgate, yeah.
So we need to, because understand retirement funds control insurance companies control banks control mines and farms. I mean, the majority of the farms that are owned commercially are bonded. And if we could get to that level of understanding retirement funds, right? The second one is within financial sector, is the state institutions like the DBSA and the IDC. We don't hold those institutions accountable for transformation. In fact, for a black person to get funding from the IDC is a miracle, right? And for a black person to get funding from the DBSA is a miracle. And also there are a number of funding institutions, like the GPF in Gauteng, the CIFA. There's a number of them that we actually don't know how they're impacting on our people and on transformation. And the third element of this is the regulators, right? The financial sector regulators. Used to be the FSB, it's now the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, the Reserve Bank, and the Council for Medical Scheme, right? All of them black run, right? But if you want to see the most lucrative industries and the most untransformed industries are the industries that are regulated by those three sectors.
Yes.
Now, how then does the EFF, right, create the pressure, both in terms of the EFF getting to understand the Pension Fund Act, right, the Medical Schemes Act, on what do we need to change? What are the small things? Not big things. You don't need to throw the entire act, but the few things that you can change in order to ensure that black people can benefit from these funds. And then how do you hold the regulators to account so that each one of the regulators must account on what transformation is taking place in their industry, right? The medical schemes industry, where we administer the medical fund as a Chaba Medical Solutions, with the only black administrator, right? But to become an administrator in a medical scheme, if you want to start an administration company, the regulator requires you to have a contract with a medical scheme, right? But no medical scheme is going to give you a contract unless if you have a license from the regulator. Right? So it's understanding all of those things and changing them, that in addition to the radical struggle for transformation, that we begin to control better what you already own. Thank you very much.
Okay, number 8.
Thank you. I definitely needed to go after you after that. Thank you.
That's number 3.
Yes. To go back on that, I think for me, one point that I want to raise, and I see the Deputy President is not here. It's one point that I know he always consistently raises in Parliament, the illicit outflows. Every 6 months or so, the topic comes up, we talk about it, it disappears. People are stealing money out of our country. And I don't hear that as a consistent thing that is worrying us, the people that are stealing money out of our country. And we work for some of those institutions that steal money out of our country. And we know how they're doing it. So that is one thing for me that I would ask, whether how is that not being something that is consistent message that is coming up in our legislative bodies. Two, the second part is around sanctioning of corporates that we have found to do some thievery. We're very comfortable going after the black politician that was working with people. But 3 big multinational companies have been mentioned consistently. The McKinseys, the SAP, the Bains, none of that we're hearing consistently people saying, where are they? What's happening with them? The biggest thing that I've learned a few years ago is that the American government, their second biggest income after taxes, is from fines that they impose on multinational companies. That's how they make money also. But in this country, the biggest fines we give to people is like 100 million. Somebody makes a 50 billion turnover, you give him a fine of 100 million. That's not going to do anything to him. If these companies have been found to have transgressed our laws, why are we not taking aggressive sanctioning against them?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very serious thing for me. So that's why I'm saying, I'm just said that the Deputy President was not here because I know this illicit outflows thing. It's one thing I know I've been very passionate about, and every time he raises it, I at least say somebody else is talking about it. It's a sad thing that we're watching people stealing money out of our country and still cry that we've got poverty. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Number 4.
I'm the original number 3. That was 2.5.
Okay. You are not doing very well as mathematicians, guys. You are not doing very well. Okay, let's be patient with each other. We'll come back to you, number 4. All right.
5. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. You are on the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Or the floor is yours.
My name is Umzwaka Skosana. I'm representing the Cooperative Banks Association. We are an association representing 22 financial institutions or cooperative financial institutions with an asset of about 45 million, and we represent about 18,000 members rurally and also urban areas.
Mm-hmm.
We are here basically to seek a champion or an advocate for the sector. Because cooperative banks, it is the easiest legislation that you can use to register a bank in the country. And that sector does not have an advocate. And if everyone here can join or start a cooperative bank, then they'll be able to control their own financial issues. I mean, the broader discussion here, it's about money. And as a suggestion, the EFF should start thinking about their own cooperative bank, because if they do not control their own money, they are not going to be able to control the country. So that is a point number 1. The other point is that there is a monopoly on the word bank. There are only 3 registered cooperative banks with the Reserve Bank. The other 18 that we are representing, they are called cooperative financial institution, and they are not allowed to use the word bank. And that is a problem that we are facing, because a bank in a dictionary, it's a naming word. No one has copyright or patented the word bank. But the act, in the act you find legislation that says so and so with certain requirements can actually call themselves a bank. And we feel that is against the spirit of people who are trying to form an organization that lends money or deposit taking institution. So that is a very important piece of legislation that we must look at. And we are advocating for a national cooperative bank. We hear everyone is talking about national bank, black bank, and so on. We are saying the legislative requirements for a cooperative bank are very easy.
and people should take advantage of that. And yeah, also lastly, the access to the national payment system. There are serious problems when you try to start your own IT or banking system and make sure that you are connected to the national payment systems. There are serious hurdles, and we want the EFF to raise those hurdles, and we are prepared to discuss them further. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have a couple of issues, but I'll keep it short and simple. The first issue that I would like the EFF to look into is basically the undue influence that our South African banks have on the judiciary. I think that at the moment, banks are really abusing their powers in as far as the judiciary is concerned. Because what they're doing, if they can't get you through bonds and take your house, repossess it using the banks, they'll come at you through blacklisting you. So whereby they actually basically just prevent you from participating in any financial institution. So as young black people, we find ourselves in a situation where we have to take debts to cover a lot of issues. And then we do make mistakes. And once they get us blacklisted, then it's done. It's over for us. We can't get access to financing. We can't get access to even IDC. But they're so powerful that they're able to go into a court and get you blacklisted without you even attending the court session. I think that the EFF really needs to look into that issue.
Sure.
And then the other issue I think that the EFF will have to really try and deal with before the elections is the issue of VBS, the liquidation. VBS is it was really a promising mutual bank, and it just got recently liquidated. Why didn't the liquidation get challenged? Instead of going for liquidation, they could have gone for business rescue. Because I know there's a lot of black-owned financial institutions that are capable of rescuing that business. All they had to do was to draft the rescue plan and then present it to the stakeholders. And this process wouldn't have had to go through, because now they're going to lose that license. And trying to get a banking license is it's like Jesus walking on water for a black person. You can never get it. So I think that's one of the issues that EFF has to deal with. Okay, I didn't introduce myself. I work in the funeral insurance space, which is a 2 trillion rand industry. And all that 2 trillion rand is money that black people actually contribute into these white-owned clienteles and hollards and salams. What I think we need to do is to group ourselves. For example, EFF has a membership database. We have about 500 members. Why can't you come to a black-owned underwriter such as 360 Life and tell us, no, can you underwrite our members? That's how we start to now ensure that the money keeps on circulating amongst ourselves. I think if EFF can devise a strategy on how they truly economically fight, as opposed to, I don't want to be controversial, but the fist fights that we see sometimes in parliament, if they fight economically and say, no, as far as funeral cover is concerned, we deal with black underwriters. As far as retirement funds are concerned, we will always be looking for a black retirement fund administrator. These are the key pressure points that I think if EFF can try to address just before the election, then it would really create a huge impact in our lives. I thank you very much.
Okay, time.
Thank you. Tonderai Chitauro. I'm a
Yes.
national. I'm from Zimbabwe. I go to a bank. Because I'm black, I get charged interest of 18%, 19% or more. A white person goes to the same bank, they get charged less. 10% or even minus 2%. What formula are you using? Risk to find that me, because I'm black or I've defaulted before. You end up with a black person, poor person, paying more interest than a company, than a richer white person. That formula is wrong. It cannot be. It just must not be. What is different? Give me a different amount, but the interest must be the same. Taxation. Your response to the national budget speeches is tame. It doesn't speak to the issues that affect the black person. My tax, 30, 35%, that's PAYE only. VAT is on top of that. An old woman receiving a grant pays more VAT than a company, because the company is able to claim back whatever it pays on VAT. I, as an employee, am not able to do that. The grant recipient cannot do that. Forget about these VAT-free the goods. We don't care about that. We all want to be on the same level as a company, as a rich person. Tax, I'll talk more to it. A company, when it makes 1 million rand, they are able to deduct all expenses, including their accommodation, the offices, including their transport, the fuel. They are able to deduct it as an expense before they calculate the taxation. So 1 million, their expenses, they can manipulate them to be 900,000. So the 28% that they are paying tax on is 100,000. A black executive who earns $1 million is taxed 35–40% before they get paid their net salary. That 70%, they are still going to be paid 14. They are going to be taxed 15%. Add that to the 30%, they are on 45 or 50 or more. As a black person, add e-tolls, add your rentals, add your water and whatever, all going to the government. How much are we paying in taxation? Unless you can be like my brother. So are we all going to be companies? Must we arrange our affairs to be companies? So that, you see, I believe that is a constitutional issue. I have a right. A company is a legal persona. I am a legal persona. We must be treated the same. We must be taxed the same. Our taxation must be the same. I must be able, after obtaining my car, to deduct it before my taxation is calculated. I must be able to reduce my taxable income by deducting my accommodation, my transport to work, everything, just like the company does. That's what I think the EFF must stand for. Equal before the law, whether you are a company or an individual. We must be equal. If I cannot be like a company, then they must be like me. They must be taxed on the same basis as I'm being taxed. My money the taxation gets deducted before I receive it. They take it. It's not so with the company. They pay it at the end of the year or quarterly or half yearly. They are benefiting from a cash flow advantage which I do not have. They have the cash flow to do whatever, to invest in more inventory and everything. I don't have that advantage. I'm a poor individual. Please stand for me. What is free market economics? That's what I believe we should be. Free market economics it can be capitalism, but capitalism in its original sense, it was free market economics, where every individual has got the right to determine their own destiny by not being taxed so much. If you give me, you tax me 50, 80%. As an individual, how do I get out of debt? How do I even invest? Then you come up with this policy where you say we have got a savings incentive where you say we'll give you tax-free. I don't even have that money. It's silly. After being taxed, I don't have the cash to invest there. I'm poor. So we are economic slaves. As long as our economic policy, as the EFF says, we want to generate employees, we want to learn math so that we can be better employees, we go into this cycle of slavery where we are taxed 78%. Here we are. we will always be burning tires on the road. Make us entrepreneurs. Give us, tax must not be more than 10%. It mustn't be, whatever tax, it mustn't be more, whether corporate or everything. Everyone must be taxed at the same rate, not more than 10%. Then I'm able, with 90% of my money, I can think about investing. I can think about going to get a farm, and then I've got 90% of the money, and I invest it. I'm an auditor, 18 years now, and a trained auditor. The audit profession is rotten. 4 audit firms, Ernst & Young, KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, and Deloitte and Touche. As long as they are 4 like that, nothing is going to come out of that. They are corrupt. They audit the banks, and you change from one to the other. Nothing is going to come out of it. Look at the audit opinion. It says, I've looked at the financial statements. Nothing has come to my attention, which makes me believe that this could be. Is that an audit opinion? Is that an audit opinion? Are you giving an opinion? You are disclaiming, you are leaving it. Yes. I believe that accounting has let us down. If, like I've said, if we are all taxed at the same, your income, your expenses are deducted, and then you pay the tax. Therefore, everyone should be on the same, and that should be the role of auditors, determining that everyone has declared their income correctly, everyone has paid their taxes correctly according to the expenses that they have declared. And then, have they been charged the correct tax? That should be it. We won't have issues of transfer pricing, international transfer pricing that we're having. Companies will not, a company even now, a director can pay the fuel, can do all the expenses of their wife. They can take their wife to Dubai. They can do all those things because the company tax law allows them. But it doesn't allow the poor employee to do that. Unions have been sleeping on duty. That's what they should be fighting for. Yeah. All right, currency, the Reserve Bank, the government is able to print money daily. We are losing value. As an employee, my salary is fixed for the whole year. It cannot change. But companies can change the prices depending on whether the fuel has gone up or down. And my salary doesn't change. I have a contract that says I only get an increment in June, and whether we toy or not, we'll get whatever percentage, and again, the next day the fuel is up. So what must we do? The measure of money must be according to how I spend. It must be fixed on a particular basket. If that basket moves, then my salary must automatically adjust. Then there won't be any point for the government to print money. They are screwed. They won't be able to print any money because if they print more, my salary is going to increase. And I'm covered. That's what unions must be fighting for. I have encapsulated this in this book. 9 December 2014, that's when I published it. I only got 6 buyers. Please buy.
Thank you. That was number 5. So we should get number 6.
Thank you.
Sanibonani.
Yebo.
Igama umxolisi kaMakhetha. I'm in the data management space. In the past 10 years, I've been working probably in the banks. Let me first start by saying there's a very interesting thing. Especially, if you go to universities, you go to IT departments, you see how many students that enroll for the first year, more than 500. But you will, like all of them, they graduate, by the way. And you will find a big influx of Indian citizens coming to the country saying that we don't have skill. It's very interesting. I doubt that's true, actually. It can't be true. In the past 10 years that I've been employed in the banks, I mean, I've built incredible models, data products. Guess what? When I came back to the same banks that I worked for to say, I own a company, I've developed these products for you guys. Now I want to subcontract. I want to do them in the capacity of my like my company. Guess what? There's so much red tape. You can't even be recognized. When they talk to you, they look at the eyes like, what? He's a young black guy. Nah, we don't trust. Tell us, do you know about data integration? Come on, I'm not there for debating about methodologies. I'm there. I want business. It's sad because it's guess what? I'm talking about the guys that come from India. Guess what? They pay them a very low rate, probably 600 per hour. Your SAP, how much do they charge per hour? Per hour, probably a junior person charges about 3,000 per hour. We were born right here. We come and say, okay, fine. We want to charge at least 1,000 per resource. Guess what? They look at you in the eyes like, what, 1,000? What are you going to do with that? It's so hard. It's so hard that, I mean, we know these things. There's a lot of skill. I know a lot of guys that I've worked with. Like in the IT space, data management space, they are great. But not even one of us can actually get a contract in Standard Bank. We work for that company. We actually did great things for that company, but we can't get a contract today. It's fine. I want to talk about the compliance reporting that they send to government. It's very interesting that if you were to look at the actual data that they talk about, have you seen a white person flagged as a black person and he's a director? It happens. We see it every day. And you cannot report it because, guess what? You signed a non-disclosure, non-disclosure. It is a serious strain, especially to young entrepreneurs, especially if you're black, too hard for you. Today I'm here because I wanted to actually come here and say, come on, EFF, you are the only people that we have seen trying to actually improve our lives. I mean, it's all a lie, especially all these big financial sectors, it's all a lie. You work in the, you train a junior today and tomorrow is a manager. You report to him. How is that fair? It's very interesting, guys, but I mean, in many times we are left just to, to say, no, it's okay, I'll just go get another job. Guess how much they'll give you? Probably 10% more from the previous salary that you had. And we have the skills. We have companies, but it's so hard just to get in on the door. There's so much red tape. At least to get a contract, bring a white fellow and be a partner, and you walk in and say, hey, come on, my guy, let's do this. And guess what? And everyone all of a sudden takes you serious. And I really wish that the economy of this country we can participate in. That's all we ask. It's not so much. Wish to participate in this economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Treasure. I work for the 360 Life Insurance Company. My request is very simple to management or leadership of the EFF. What I've observed with political parties, can I sit down? What I've observed with political parties is that we sit in forums like this. We give you good views. But where you lack is when you now take power, you don't appoint suitable candidates to drive this agenda forward. My request is very simple. Find somebody with a not insurance, financial sector background, and appoint them. Not somebody who's campaigned a lot, as we've seen in the past, but somebody who knows. but somebody who knows the issues we've talked about here. I've seen a lot of you, right, especially our leader, Julius. I don't know if from here any of you would remember and understand what we have been debating and the core of what we are talking about. The struggle is the same. it's clear from everyone that spoke here that we are suffering. We are not asking for a rescue. That's not what you're going to do. We are asking for a suitable candidate to run this sector, and everything else will follow. Thank you.
Okay. Yes,
No,
sir.
It's my turn now.
We're here now.
Hi, my
Hi.
name is Nico Jacobs. Just a little bit of background. I've been in the financial sector for the past 24 years. I'm an MBA graduate, fourth year LLB student, and I've been all over in the banking sector. But one thing that really annoys me is this new term that we use, learnerships. And who are these candidates who are working for this learnerships? It's our black graduates that are now in a different way enslaved of going on to these learnerships for for 1 or 2 years, because they need to make sure that this poor black child can actually do a job. And he's not even guaranteed that he's going to get a job. I've seen people coming in for these learnerships. They don't get appointed after a year or 2 years, and they let them go, right? It's very annoying when you sit with the financial services SETAs not doing what they're supposed to do. I think what the EFF should push for is to actually remove all these SETAs, because it's a waste of money. Take that money and invest it in education, into your, especially your maths and science, and that money will actually do good. With regards to the stats that's been given on a monthly basis to DTI, a typical example myself. I'm working for Nedbank Private Wealth, but before I started there, it took me 24 interviews 2 years later to get a different position in the same bank, right? And that is the reality of a black graduate all over in all the banking sectors, right? And I have an issue where firstly, you have to be exposed to, or you have to go for 4 interviews. After that, you need to go for psychometric testing to make sure you as a black person can actually do the job. But you're sitting with 24 years of banking experience. And that is the reality of our black children. Now, what about your young graduate fresh out of varsity? What chance does he stand to basically get a job within the financial sector when you are being exposed like this, when you're already in the same sector? They say that, this gentleman here mentioned that from the CETA, that we need to encourage our children to go study accounting and all of that. My clients are medical doctors that work for Nedbank. They are qualified geologists. So accounting is not a necessity. It's a skill that is required. Your ability to understand financials, your ability to understand the sector that they actually place you in. That's my one point. And the other point is that, for example, I'm a private banker, but I get reported to the DTI as being middle management. I'm not middle management. So how reliant is the stats that's been given to the CETAs? It's not reliant. It's a whole lot of hogwash, right? My second point that I want to mention is the issue around personal loans. The interest rates are excessively high. I've seen it. And who are the people who are taking out personal loans the most? Not because of they cannot save or whatever, it's our poor black people. I've seen interest rates up till 25%. I'm coming to the bank because I don't have money. I need to help my family with a funeral, and you charge me 25%. That's a complete rip-off. And that should be regulated by the NCA. And this is what I want you guys to actually push for, that interest rates, especially with personal loans, should be regulated. Then my third issue is around social housing, combining it with what the responsibility of financial services is. In my ward, I stay in the inner city, by the way. In my ward 123, 42% are headed by black household. The household is headed by females. On average, those people earn 2,400 a month, as per the stats of Stats SA a few years ago. And this, you would understand why people will move from month to month to a different apartment because they cannot afford the rent. And this is where the EFF need to be the leader once again, to lead the ANC government, to make them understand, stop telling lies to our people that we understand grassroots politics, but they absolutely understand nothing. Why is it that 24 years later, 30% of our population have gone poorer? And who are these 30% people? Our black people, nobody else. And it's a reality, right? I say we need to change the social housing scheme and stop making our poor black people permanent tenants in their own country. Can we not devise a scheme where part of your monthly payment that you pay, within 10 years, you become an owner of that apartment? Because our poor people, really, guys, it's a reality. I don't need to go look where people are poor. I see it on a daily basis. It's a reality. And the banking sector should be taken to task to grant a portion of whatever these people need to pay towards paying off their unit, so that we can become a country of owners, black owners of our properties. We cannot be permanent tenants in our own country.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Welcoming here. Chief, here.
No, I'm here.
I don't think I recognized you. You
I
are.
was number 8. I was number 8.
You were on your feet. Let's hear here. You were on your feet,
I'll
intimidating
be very
me.
brief and short.
No, we'll come to you. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes,
Good
Chief.
evening.
Yeah. Well.
My name is Bernard de Gallis. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors. And our mandate is to regulate auditors and protect the financial interests of the public, of investors, and of pensioners. Now, I'm not going to talk about the crisis in the auditing profession now, other than to say that we're all aware that millions have been lost in our financial sector because of the business and the audit failures. And some of that can be pinned on the auditing profession. So we are all aware of that. And we also heard earlier that the financial sector is an important sector. So if anything goes wrong in that sector, the confidence is lost and we lose investment in the country. Now the RBA, as I mentioned, has one of its main responsibilities to protect investors. And we do that through various measures. But one of the important objectives of the measures that we want to introduce and that we've always tried to introduce is to also strengthen the independence of auditors from their clients. That means that we want to break up the cozy relationships between clients and auditors and the old boys clubs that have existed for many years. That means that we want to give mobility and access of others, and especially black and local audit firms, into the audit market and break up the concentration of the big four in that market. Now, some of you might remember that when we tried to introduce mandatory audit firm rotation to force auditors to be changed every 10 years, there was a lot of resistance. But our main objectives were firstly independence, to break up the cozy relationships and give others the opportunity to enter the market. Secondly, to address the lack of competition and the concentration in the market. And thirdly, for transformation. But the resistance that we received from many stakeholders had caused us to say that the mandatory audit firm rotation was only for independence. But the RBA has not yet given up on also using mandatory audit firm rotation to drive transformation and to drive the lack of competition in the audit market. So while we can force auditors to change their clients every 10 years, we have no jurisdiction over those that appoint the auditors in all the sectors. So that means that the audit committees and the financial directors and the management still have the ability to switch auditors every 10 years, but stay within the big four firms. And what we require is some support to have policies to ensure that those opportunities are also given to other firms. But we cannot enforce that. We need policies and legislation to ensure that from the other side, when it comes to the appointment of auditors, there's also legislation that make that happen. Our mandatory audit firm rotation have been legislated. So we successfully managed to get that done and to force audit firms to rotate and give others the opportunity. But we also need those that appoint the auditors to, we can't just rely on us pleading with them to make the change. If we want the change, then it has to be enforced. The second point that I want to make is that we've seen a lot of the audit and business we've seen a lot of business failures happening where it's not only the auditors that might be implicated, but also accountants and others in the financial reporting chain, like audit committee members, management, CFOs. And so the RBA has been making proposals to have those other role players also to have some oversight over those role players, have them regulated so that they can also be held accountable for the business failures whereby lots of pensioners lose a lot of money. And therefore they should also be held accountable just like auditors. We refer to it as comprehensive regulation, meaning that we need legislation to ensure that there's oversight over everybody in the financial reporting
CFOs,
chain and not only auditors. Thank you.
Excellent. And then the last two hands, the landlords here, Mr. President, have already whispered to my ear. So we have somebody that we had gotten up there. Yeah, here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Given Paladi. I represent the company called Regive Capital. And also, I guess today I'll also be representing a couple of asset managers that I can see here as well. So I want to talk about some of the issues that Mr. Msibi has mentioned, particularly on the retirement fund. And we must be very straightforward in terms of how then we resolve that. For instance, if you are talking about the issues of job creation, which is obviously the challenge that all the government of the world, they're struggling with, particularly in Africa. And that, if you flip it on the other side, there is only one main source of capital that can be able to solve that. And that's the retirement fund, right? But if you look at the retirement fund, then there are some challenges or issues that we need to be able to address that. And one of that is the transformation. We've been talking about the transformation of the SOEs. We've talked, transformation of, let's say, of the Telkom, transformation of the Transnet, transformation of PRASAs and the likes. But most of the time, we tend to forget to focus on the actual funds underneath, which for Telkom, it will be a Telkom retirement fund. For PRASA, it will be PRASA retirement fund, and Transnet, and so forth. And there's been some development, obviously, over the years. And one of those developments in terms of trying to address that transformation is the 50-50 representative in terms of the board of trustees, where you've got the employer and then you've got the employee. And on the employee side, most of the time you've got the union that was supposed to be the voice of transformation within those boards. But to date, what we have seen that most of those unions, they are currently receiving or they're sitting at the pockets of most of these institutions that we're trying to transform, or that we are questioning why they are not transforming. And here we're talking about the big asset managers that are not transforming, and they keep on paying and giving these trustees a whole lot of other money. And so then we then have to ask another question and say, the employee side, the unions, are they the right people to be representing those boards? And that's the question that we need to be able to answer. And then the second part that I want to jump into, so I've spoken about the transformation, and that transformation, again, if you go a next level, again, it's the allocation of that money to the asset managers. it must be prescribed that 50% of those assets should be in the black hands, should be managed by black asset managers. Because we have been talking about this thing, but it's not happening. But what we have been seeing recently is the same pension funds money funding few individuals that envy the white-owned businesses and buying stakes on them, making them black. But we know they're not black. So that cannot happen, cannot continue to happen. So let me jump on the second point. The second point is around the Regulation 28 of the Pension Funds Act, which gives the prudential guidelines. It gives you the guidelines in terms of where can you invest this money. Currently, it says you can invest up to 75% into a listed equity. We are talking about the white monopoly capital. Where is it sitting? In the listed equity. That's 75% before you can even start. It says continue the status quo. If you start a pension fund today, and let's say it's 1 rand, tomorrow it's 2 rand, that means out of that, you have already given a portion of your asset, or you are, by law, it's forcing you to continue the status quo. So we need to be able to liberate that. So we must be able to cap that 75% and move that 75% into other asset classes. But mainly here, I think the private equity makes more sense. And the reason why I say the private equity makes more sense, it's because you are now able to create parallel industries. And you are breaking that monopoly. Because that money can start investing in Pasha, perhaps in Skukune, who's building whatever it is that is building, a business there, right? So you are now creating a parallel industry, which you are no longer continuing on the status quo. So that's one thing that I think we need to look at, particularly on that Regulation 28 of the pension fund. Then the third thing that most of the time, and particularly it's paining when you see the young people in the financial sector that are not being taken into consideration when decisions are being made. And citing the fact that they are not experienced enough, right? So you've got whole of young people that are just juniors or middle managers. But in terms of the executive, we begin to see the same faces being recycled. If today you were to say, I've got a listed financial service company and give me one name and I'm looking for a CEO of that company, there will be few names that will be circulating and they'll be moving from A to B. We need to be able to bring the new guys. But why is that important? It is important because experience, it is only valid when you run permutations, just to go and check that, has this thing been done before? And what are the lessons? But if we are talking about the future, then experience does not have any place. Because all of us, we are building the future. So then we can no longer talk about that experience in an executive level. If we are going to talk about the employment of the young people, black people in particular, that means we need to be able to get the HR managers that are black that understand that transformation. So those are the things that we need to be able to look at. And so,
okay.
Yes, let me end there. So
excellent.
I've just covered all of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for your contributions this evening. And without much ado, Mr. President, invite you to give us some form of closing statement.
Thank you very much, Program Director, our National Chairperson, the Provincial Chair. I've seen members of the Gauteng officials here. And thank all of you who made time to come and participate in this consultative process of the EFF. We are in a process of formulating the manifesto of the EFF for 2019 National General Elections. And we thought that we shouldn't pretend to be Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-all, We should instead speak to the people who are involved in the sectors and begin to listen to them and let them give you solutions on how you can transform the sector and how you can implement commitments made in the manifesto of the EFF. We have listened to everyone, and we have deliberately brought our recording equipments to record every input so that the drafters of the manifesto can have an opportunity to listen to every individual. So every input made here is a very important input which will be processed by our manifesto committee, which is chaired by our deputy president. So he's not here because he's listening in KZN. And yesterday, our deputy secretary was listening to elderly people in Soweto. And we have listened to disabled people in Ikuruleni because many developments are taking place today in South Africa. There's no consideration of the input of disabled people, for instance. We don't know what are their interests, what are their immediate challenges, and how they can be resolved. The financial sector, somebody said correctly so, that contributes 20% into our GDP, and therefore it's an important sector which we need to pay attention to. And therefore neglecting it will be equal to neglecting the entire economy, because the whole economy relies and is based on the financial sector. So if you want to be in agriculture, if you want to be in mining, if you want to be in textile, you require finances, and therefore we need to establish a solid financial sector policy which will speak to requirements of transformation and the future. So that's why to us it is important that we listen to those who knows the sector very well. This is not the last platform we are creating. There is a manifesto email address which we have circulated. And most of these valuable inputs we have made here, you can write them and still submit them. Some of you have not spoken. Some of you find it difficult to speak in the presence of other people. And therefore, it might be convenient for you to write and submit that information. We'll process it properly and make sure that it is well taken care of. Some of you have made so much powerful inputs that will require individual follow-up. Perhaps with our manifesto team, perhaps with our leadership. Because some of the things can be attended to now. They don't have to go into the manifesto. They just need a political will, and once there is a political will, the powers that be begin to listen. So we may want to have sessions with some of you to take specific issues forward. I know that we were speaking to financial sector. Some of you raised individual issues where you need and require immediate intervention. We should be able to do that. But one critical point which we must be able to resolve is the issue of education. It might not be mathematics, it might not be accounting, but it is important that we pay attention to education. Because everything else we spoke about here, if there is no serious attention paid to education, it amounts to nothing. And therefore, if we want to go into business, if we want to be our own employers, if we want to own our own farms and our own properties, if we want to play a role in asset management, both small and big, you'll always require education. You'll always require mathematics, and you don't have to pass mathematics, by the way, if you don't want to go into that space. But just having done mathematics, because everything is maths, for you to move from this chair to the other chair, you must calculate. So mathematics is very important. It plays a role in every aspect of life. And you don't have to pass it. You don't have to be an A student but you ought to have some exposure to mathematics. And those who want to really pay the necessary attention into, issues of accounting, issues of auditing, then they can, pay a special attention and want to excel in those fields. But I take a point that says we need mathematics. Actually, there shouldn't be a school in South Africa without mathematics. All of them, particularly in the rural areas, particularly in the townships, because that's where Bantu education was introduced, and the introduction of Bantu education was based on the basis of what are you going to do with mathematics as a black person. So that which was denied to black people, it must be what we give black people now. Because they didn't deny you for no reason. They denied you because they knew the power of what they denied you. So we must give our people everything else that was denied to them. And at the center of it is education. And at the center of that education, amongst many other things, is mathematics. So we equally have to up our game when it comes to the pass mark. We can't be a generation of 33%. If you know 33%, it means you know nothing. So we cannot be a generation of 33%. There is some new regulations now in universities, which we love in the EFF. They say for you to be in the SRC, you must pass your modules, all of them, by 60%. 60%. And that is leadership. So it means that leadership must lead by example. It's a positive thing, but our people, some of them went on strike and said, we can't pass 60%, it's too much. We cannot have that if we're serious about the future. We have to do the opposite of everything else they described us to be. That when it comes to education, we are not very good. We do not like that. We must do education to demonstrate to all of them that even when you denied us education, we still did well. Imagine now when we have access to education. We are going to be a better society. I like the input that says, we don't require experience when you go into the future because no one has been to the future. So what experience do you have? We all don't have experience when it comes to the future. If we had required experience, Mandela would not have been a president because he had no experience of any government department. But he came out a good president, loved by all of us, without any experience. Why? We're going into the future, and the future was democracy. And no one had an experience of democracy in 1994. And therefore, the requirement of experience at the time would be self-defeating. The fourth industrial revolution, no one has got an experience. We're all going to enter into it. We must not be scared. And this scaring thing that this thing is going to take jobs from us, it's not true. I don't think it's real. Okay, if these machines take jobs from us, who's going to consume everything produced by these machines? Because this production by machines must be consumed by someone, and the one who's going to consume must have resources to buy those things. Where will these people get the resources? We just have to find the solution in terms of protection of jobs or reskilling of our people to be relevant to the economy. The mistake we made with telecom, for instance, was that we took the poles to rural areas, put a lot of billions to take the poles to rural areas and telephone lines to rural areas. And we said, yeah, this is democracy. Everybody must have a telephone. Rural people must also have telephones. After putting the telephone lines and poles, then cell phone came. And then those poles and telephone lines were useless. Why? There was no visionary leadership. Let's not make a similar mistake when the future is very clear that there is a fourth industrial revolution which is unavoidable. We want to mourn about it instead of locating ourselves at a strategic center of that revolution and claim it and drive it ourselves and then begin to reskill our people. Today, all private schools are teaching young kids about technology. All private schools are now teaching kids how to make robotics. And then after seeing that in the white people's schools, I went to my township schools there. There's nothing robotics about it. But every politician that takes a platform talks about the fourth industrial revolution. But the people who will be experiencing the fourth industrial revolution are not being equipped with the necessary skills. They're still being taught other things. Maybe amongst other things, biblical studies and all that. Because rather now my son got A in Bible, and I said to him, you want to be a pastor? What are you doing with the Bible? They should be getting A's on subjects that are going to be relevant for the fourth industrial revolution. Otherwise, we are going to be complainants ourselves and say people are losing jobs. Why are they losing jobs? That this economy is not absorbing our people because we have not prepared them for what is coming. So let's not be like Telkom and introduce telephone lines when cell phones have arrived. Not even grannies now want a telephone line. They want cell phones. So we need to prepare a society. We need to transform these retirement funds. You know, there's no political will, and we always complain about white people. You know, white people are the simplest people. They just want you to tell them what you want. If a white person approaches you differently, hey, I don't want that. Immediately the attitude changes. They realize, hey, this one, it looks like it's different from the ones that are working at my house there. They need someone who leads those institutions to say, this is how we're going to start doing things here. PIC has got resources. But where are the resources being invested? The government pension fund, someone spoke about ESCOM. ESCOM has one of the biggest pension fund. Who are the asset managers? And ESCOM has had all types of black CEOs, and look at who constitutes the board. And then you come and become crybabies with something that you control and pretend like, no, there's someone somewhere who's not allowing us to really benefit out of this. You control it, you lack the political will because you are scared, you are cowards. You need leadership that is not coward. That, no, this is how it's going to be done, whether you like it or not. Capital doesn't have problems. Even in countries where there are civil wars, that's capitalism for you. Where there is blood, they still mine blood diamond. As long as there's something they want there, they will still go. Once you make the policy clear that this is how we're going to do it, they sit down and say, how do we continue to make money out of that? Even with that policy. We don't make policy, we don't do anything. We're scared. And then we complain about transformation. Two things we must do. It's ownership, it's control. We will never defeat illicit financial flows, even if we own, for as long as we don't control. Look at what they are doing now. They are releasing ownership. They have no problem with ownership. They had a problem at the beginning with ownership. Now they realize ownership is useless. They are now in control. Management, middle management is them. It's control. They decide to tell you what is the production. If they decide to mislead you, you have to take it. It comes from them. If they say these are the tanks we have produced of platinum, there's nothing you can do. It is management telling you, you don't know what's going on there. We have to know what's going on there. So we need to have management. We need to have control, but we need to have management which is committed to hire black people and to hire women. Like our gentleman here says, 98% of the people they are helping are women. Because if you do anything in the name of intervening and you don't empower women in that intervention, then you must know it means nothing. Because the most excluded people are women. So we have to deliberately empower them. So we need leadership, and we need leadership that is not scared of the status quo. We spoke about the land. All of you said this is going to scare the investors. The investors are the ones who are now participating on how best can it be done. They are not talking about it not being done. They are saying, okay, but how are you going to do it without, tampering with production and all of that? That's fine. Let's talk about that. We must disrupt the financial sector. We must disrupt it. Because without any disruption, it won't be transformed. You cannot say, I want to have, you find a house here, a dilapidated house, or even if it's a beautiful house according to the previous owner, still in good condition, right? And you say, no, but I want to have my own look and feel, and hope to achieve that look and feel without disruption. Because the renovation is disruption. When you think of removing a carpet and putting a tile, you're like, sure. So when they do that, where will I be sleeping? You must know there's going to be some disturbance. And that's what the financial sector requires. We ought to disrupt it. And in doing so, we must be very bold about it. We must not egg walk the financial sector. We have to empower black people. Some of them are going to fail. And when they fail, we must keep on empowering them until they get it right. Why will they perfect it? Because they can't start by perfecting it. They've never handled this big account. It's for the first time. We have to know that. I was telling other people that the Japanese with Toyota, they started it. Look at Toyota where it is now. You are educated. You must go and check how many times Toyota failed. But Japan never gave up on Toyota. Every time it fails, they put money. Every time they fail, they put money. And it was not failing because of the Japanese. It was failing because of other countries which are involved in the automobile industry. No, we don't need competition. Japan understood that very well and said we have to put up a fight against these people. So VBS fails with some few crooks which are identifiable. Instead of isolating those individuals, we collapse the bank. But African Bank is given an opportunity to rebuild itself and many other banks. And then all of us were told, no, it's corruption, it's corruption. When you say, no, let's defend VBS, Brian Shibambo. Brian Shibambo. We are not given a list of how many family members benefited from Steinhoff. We're never told. But you can be guaranteed it will never collapse without family members. Their family members are involved. VBS failed because it was told all the monies of the municipalities which are there must all go out. And brilliant people who are in the financial sector say to me, Julius, all the banks, if we are to say, they'll all keep 10%. The rest, they play with it. If you are to say to them now, the money of government in all the banks, 4 banks, must now move into a state bank, they will all collapse. Because they don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have it. So there was nothing wrong with VBS receiving the money and putting it in other things. The only wrong was when they took for themselves. But the money that went into other investments, if you're to say to the bank, reroute the money back into the depositors, they won't have it. No bank will have it. But a bank formed by a Bantu stance of vendor republic, which we ridiculed and said they know nothing, they are useless, we need a democratic government. They ran a bank. Those Bantu stance. The Democrats could not run a bank. We must be ashamed of ourselves, all of us, that a vendor Bantustan ran a bank successfully. A democratic government couldn't do that. And we are scared to talk because why? We're all labeled to be in that corruption of that bank. Why were you labeled to be in the corruption of that bank? So that you are all silenced. So that we deal with it decisively without anyone raising his head. And I was shocked even the EFF didn't oppose the liquidation of VBS after it said, we must rescue the bank. It was supposed to be the first one to put the money where their mouth is and say we oppose this based on 1, 2, 3. There were no other alternative before this last option of liquidation. One of the participants makes a very valuable point, says, business rescue. Why was that not an option? Nothing was tried with that bank. So it was one of the banks owned by black people in a predominantly sector that is white dominated. We still did not rescue it. You stood up here to tell us about corporate banks that you are owning and all of that. If they dare pose a threat, you must know they are coming for your corporate bank. If you've got a corporate bank that is going to threaten their interest, why was VBS closed? The money that was supposed to go into the mainstream was now beginning to go into a mutual bank. And the mainstream was now beginning to feel the heat. That no, man, this municipality is no longer banking with us. What's wrong? No, they are banking with some VBS. What is that? It's some black, no. Bring legislation here. What does the legislation say? Go for them. They were beginning to hit where it matters the most. They had a good intention, but you know, when you will open a window for a fresh air, some uninvited flyers come in as well. We were supposed to deal with that and not close the window for a fresh air. VBS was a fresh air in a predominantly dominated sector, banking sector in South Africa. But you know who owns the narrative, who owns the whole thing. They just go for you, and then your comment is captured with one sentence. The whole story is about you, but you only speak once in the whole story, and you are guilty as charged. So we need the brave ones. Why did the EFF not challenge it? It got scared. They successfully threatened it. It means even the EFF is not as brave as we think. They successfully threatened it. So you go into the pension funds and pose a serious threat. They will start saying, no, it's NUMSA, NUMSA is Jim, Jim is Vavi. Vavi retweeted Malema, Malema must be into the whole thing. And therefore, this is not a legitimate pension or asset manager company or pension fund. And then they go find all types of things, and they will find them anyway, because we don't know these things. We are trying to navigate through. Sometimes you think that you're on the right track, only to realize later when they read so many laws, including apartheid laws, that you actually were wrong here. Actually were wrong here. Right? Everything that constitutes a threat to the establishment will be crushed, including the transformation of the financial sector, be it in the funerals, be it in insurance, be it in banking sector, be it in a pension fund, be it in asset management. Anything that constitutes threat, they will crush it. The question is, are you prepared to take the pain? Because some of you can't take the pain. You are so scared. That's what matters, is the ability to absorb the pain. Because change comes with pain. It's the most painful thing, change. So if we are to hit the financial sector, you must know that's where they are rooted. That's where they are found. They don't want anything there. That's where you find Maria Ramos. And that's where you find Trevor Manuel. And that's where you find Praveen. You don't touch their boss's assets. Whereas now we have black brothers. There is a black brother called Patrice. He will say he's going into a financial sector, he's establishing this insurance company, and then go and fetch Afrikaner males to come and be the CEOs. And then we must still call that a black company. It cannot be. It has to be genuinely black. Because it's not true that they only front domestic workers. Even our so-called multi-billionaires are available for fronting. They are available for fronting. So, we are going to start this journey together. But very few of us will remain standing. Because now they even have the power to close your bank account. They accuse you 2-3 times in the papers. They come for your bank account. They know without a bank account you can't function. Then they take you out of the game. It is nice to come and talk here. You must ask us who have been victims of these chaps. They will come for you with everything. At least they did that with some of us before, so there is nothing left. When AfriForum says it's taking Malema's asset, which ones? Which ones? So when you are wet, you cannot be scared of the rain. You are wet already. So that's why we are prepared to fight. We have nothing to lose. But the chains of economic rejection. We must go in there and say, we want our seat on the table. We're demanding our seat on the... We're not pushing any white person away. We're not pushing any Indian away. We're not pushing any colored away. We just want our seat. The cake is too big. We can all have a piece of that cake, a slice of that cake. We need to fight to occupy our seat there. There's no EFF that is going to fight Indians. No. We're just stating a fact. You know, we asked someone a question in Parliament during one of the hearings, and we say, are you a racist? And he says, no, I'm not a racist. And outside we say, but that guy should have said he's racist. He should have said, yes, I'm a racist. Because it's a problem I have, you know. And I'm trying to deal with it, that problem. So you must first acknowledge it, that you have that problem. And then say, yeah, well, I'm trying to deal with it. So when we say there are some Indians who are racist, if you are not racist, don't even feel affected. If you say blacks they like sex and make babies and alcohol, they don't love school. Who? Me? You're not describing me. That's not me. That's not me. But if you know you've got that problem, you are going to say, hey, stop there, stop there. Because you will not want to hear the truth about yourself. There is no Indian who's going to be chased out of South Africa. There is no white person who's going to be chased out of South Africa. They will live on their own. Why? Because empowerment of black people threatens privilege. Once we are all empowered, there won't be anyone who's privileged. So when you say let's empower black people, you are actually threatening privilege that comes with whiteness. What do you mean? It can't be like that. No ways. So we have to deal with the question of privilege. And we are unapologetic about that. And Indian people have not decided to behave in a manner they did, it was instilled in them by colonialism and apartheid, which said to them, you are better than colors and West Africans. They did that even with settlement. They do that even today. They will prefer Indian than African and make Indians to feel like they are much better than us. Because why? They survive through divide and rule. The unity of black people, Africans, colored, and Indians threatens imperialism. That's why they will want to divide us like that. No. This Malema is coming for Indians. He's coming for you. And because they make you feel so important, you also feel like, yeah, no, it's true. He's coming for us. It can be done even amongst us. Mbuiseni can be told many a times, you know, you are better, man. I even like the way you pronounce, the way you make your pronunciations, you know. You don't sound like them. You are different, you know. You're a PhD graduate. They tell you that so many times that you start believing in it. And all of a sudden, Mbuiseni walks differently from us, like, and speaks differently, you know, and then starts saying, no, you can't use hands to eat. Even, what happened? So it's not a division between Africans, Indians, and coloreds only. They also try it amongst Africans. That you are so educated and you pronounce your words so well, please don't destroy yourself. Don't destroy yourself. And then they tell the Africans in Midrand that they are better off than the Africans in Alexander or Tembisa or what is the one next to Ivory Park. But the reality is that no, the ones in Ivory Park, they are much, much better than the ones in Midrand. Because they've got no debt they are swimming in. They owe no person, nothing. They eat that which they have. They don't eat the money they don't have. You are drowning in debt because you are told you are better than the ones in Ivory Park, and you start wanting to behave like better than them because you believed that lie. So you start taking credit of the car and staying in expensive apartments and dressing differently, and then taking Capitec loan and then failing to pay a Capitec loan, giving you a loan to pay a Capitec loan. And then they finish you off. The ones of Alex, they sleep very well. The problem is the rats. The problem is not these things that you can even commit suicide about. They don't have problems, those types. So you ought to know yourself. You ought to know yourself and your struggles and know that we belong together. We are one thing. We have the same problems. The same as white women. These guys excluded even their wives and their sisters. Because it's a Stellenbosch boys club. It doesn't have females. It doesn't have white females. But white females too believe they are better than us. Instead of joining our struggle and saying, but we are equally excluded. Let's go into that story of interest rate. Someone spoke that a white person's interest rate will be better than a black person's interest rate. A white female's interest rate may be higher than the one of a male counterpart. Why? They will say she's high risk. So even when it comes to car insurances, females get to be treated differently. So instead of knowing our position in society and deciding which side are we get to be told, and we behave like we are told that no, you are this, that which you are not. Eh? I had someone here saying, I'm a capitalist, right? Which is not true. There's no capitalist in this room, I can tell you that. You might be an aspirant capitalist. It doesn't make you a capitalist. You know me, I'm an aspirant master's graduate at VETS. But I'm not a master's graduate. I'm an aspirant because I'm a student. So I'm not going to go around telling people I've got masters. I've got masters. You don't have. You have an aspiration of having a master's. So please don't call yourselves capitalists. There's no capitalist here. A capitalist is the one who owns the means of production. Your small piece of farm is not a means of production until you own precisely, proper hectares of land. You are not a player. You are not a player. Just hectares, 100 hectares don't make you a player. You are no capitalist. All of us here, we are trying. We are trying to discover ourselves. What do I want to do and all of that. So, because if you classify yourself wrongly, you may not know where are your problems. When they say capitalists are a problem, you also clap yourself with capitalists. Oh, I'm also a problem. Because they say capitalists are a problem. They are a problem to you too. So there is no capitalist here. Whether capitalism works, whether socialism works is another debate. We can have that debate separate. But all I'm saying is that we're all on the same side. We must never see ourselves better than the people in Alex, in Deep Sloot, in Soweto. Our struggles are the same. The liberation of black people in the financial sector, it's a liberation of everyone, including the ones in the township. The last point is that we have sponsored a bill in Parliament to establish a state-owned bank. We want a state-owned bank to deal precisely with what you are talking about. That what happens with a black tax? Because this person might be employed, but he has to first resolve the crisis at home and then still resolve his own crisis at the same time. Collateral you may not have, because we come from a communal land. Don't have. So we need a state-owned bank that will work like a VBS, because VBS was giving people who are having houses in a communal land loans and bonds. And let me tell you one thing, you must go and check the bond account of VBS. It's one of the best. Those people who've got bonds with VBS are one of the best clients. They are paying. The rural mass is paying. Why? Because rural people are scared of credit. They don't want problem. They were brought up in a manner that suggested if you owe someone, you pay that person. We need a bank that is going to intervene. There are people who are working for government. They do not qualify for RDPs. They do not qualify for bonds. We need to help them. PIC has got their money there. It can't even establish a bond system which is going to benefit government employees. They can't invest their money to give government employees who are not qualifying for bonds and RDP houses a scheme which will give them houses. We've listened to where we need to make amendments. Let's get those submissions in written form. We're not scared. Those of you in corporate banks, write a proposal on which areas of the laws must be changed. We'll sponsor that in Parliament and we'll change the law. We're changing ownership of a reserve bank. They say, but it doesn't mean anything. Fine, we do it for control. Hey, just to demonstrate power that we're in charge. Okay, it won't change anything, fine. Since it won't change anything, let's do it. We are changing the constitution. They say, but the constitution allows expropriation of land without compensation. Oh, does it allow that? Okay, let's make it explicit. Let's change it. So let's go and change legislation. We are there. We're not lazy. We will put those proposals and the ANC shall follow us. And say, and it will never reject the ANC because we're going to demonstrate to them, this is how this thing is going to benefit our people. Only then they realize, huh? Do you know that the ANC MPs in the finance committee didn't know what is illicit financial flows? When we arrived, we presented it. After that, they came for workshop. Okay, Floyd, what do you mean by this thing of illicit? How does it happen? They cashed it much later. And then, only then, Praveen started including it in his financial budget speech. They were not speaking about it. They were not speaking about it. So don't be shy. Be it in banks, be it in funerals, be it anywhere. Please, EFF doors are open. Write, bring it to us. We'll give it to researchers to go and research it and write it properly. Even if you don't write it properly, as long as it's an idea and you think it's worth it, we will workshop it, we'll put it in parliament, we'll pass proper legislation. Some of the legislations don't even need us to pass anything. We just have to make amendments. Just amend this and amend that. For instance, the Bank Act we're talking about, we're not making any new legislation. We're just amending a section which says government is not allowed to own a bank. We're just going to say government is allowed to own the bank. And then the whole thing just changes. We own a bank. Please, let's be active participants. Let's not be passive. Let's not be complainants. We've got political power with 6%. Yeah, you don't require 2/3. The people had 2/3 and did nothing with it. You just need ideas. And with your ideas here, I'm happy that we can change the financial sector. We need you not to be tired. Don't just submit something and then say, hi, I submitted. They've not done anything. Don't be tired. You can see us, we're not tired. When we speak, we repeat as if we're a scratch CD. Why? We must say it until they understand it. So don't get tired. Keep on pushing and submitting and pushing and saying, this illicit financial flows, we need a law passed. We're working on a law about illicit financial flows, which we're going to sponsor in Parliament. No one will oppose a law that deals with illicit financial flows. Why the ANC did not do it, I don't know. We now are pushing a law that says every ward in South Africa must have a clinic. It must be by law. By law. Why? The poorest country that exists under a blockade called Cuba. Not every ward has got a clinic. Every street has got a doctor. Yet they are the poorest. Yet they are the poorest. It's doable. The money is there. There's too much money. Too much. Politicians are finishing it because they've got no purpose for it. Let's give the money the purpose. Then we shall implement. It's possible. We must not have a township or a section without a school. There must be, a developed society should not be judged on the basis of how much money have we saved in the banks. It must be judged on the basis of education, the life expectancy, the housing and basic services in society. If we can master that, the rest will just do them as by the way. But there shouldn't be a situation where more than 30% of population is illiterate. Yet you've got trillions. The economy is growing by 3-4%, but you can't do the basic thing of educating society. Even if your economy is growing, As long as you've got an illiterate society, you are a poor society. You are poor. So we need to deal with basic things. And with people like yourself who sacrifice their time to come and sit here on a Friday. I mean, if you're unemployed, people will say, they don't have anywhere to go. But you've got everywhere to go. You chose to come and share ideas with the future, because the EFF is the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have an excellent weekend, and may the financial sector be under siege from all of you.